When I was growing up, there was this concept going around that you can't believe everything you read online. But something that I came across recently on TikTok, of all places, kind of made me realize that it's not really at the forefront of people's minds anymore. And what brought this to my attention most recently, it was the Turkey Trot prank, the TikTok Turkey Trot prank. Now, I understand this is very, very niche. So allow me to explain the situation. I'll insert the clip, of course. But basically, someone going by the username Parksy started all of this. Or Parksy, sorry. When they posted a video to TikTok, and the video was, I guess, supposed to be lighthearted, right? This was like 2 weeks ago now, around Thanksgiving time, the end of November in America. Well, it was the end of November everywhere, but it was specifically Thanksgiving in America. In this video, it boasted the caption, "Convinced my brother's fiance that we're an intense Turkey Trot family and that we run a 10K every Thanksgiving." And then that was supplemented by a little like sub caption that read, "Including matching t-shirts and a special costume just for her." And now that you have that information, I'll play the clip for you.
Ready?
Oh, let's go, come on.
Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3. We're kidding! Just teasing, Libby! There's no race.
Hey, Liv, there's no
There's
phrase.
no race.
There's no
There's
phrase.
no race. Welcome to the family, Libby.
Are you serious? Are you serious? Oh, we're matching shirts.
God, I'm sorry.
Let's go eat some breakfast.
I can't believe you held it.
Now, you may be able to tell that the subject of the video was not, she didn't look particularly enthralled. She was just acting a little bit unamused throughout the video, you know. And the description kind of acknowledged that, actually. The description, it read something along the lines of, it wouldn't be an official Butler family Thanksgiving without a little prank, and then said something about, trust me, the fiance was glad that she could get in from the cold and she didn't have to exercise, is kind of what the description said. I can't remember exactly, and I can't expand on the description because it's kind of gone. Like, the original video has been deleted.
So while we're at it, we should probably read the caption. "It's not an official Butler family Thanksgiving without a little prank tossed in. This girl is such a trooper. She also loves pranks and thought the whole thing was very funny. I promise she was thrilled not to have to do any form of exercise."
And the reason the original video has been deleted is because people were tearing the Butler family to shreds. To shreds, I say. Like, it was bad. People were taking this seriously. Really, really seriously. Like, there were commenters lamenting that the fiance had been traumatized by the situation. They were like, she's dissociating. A lot of people called it a humiliation ritual. Some people even said that they classified what she went through as abuse, or they were like, this is a red flag of an abusive relationship, because the fiance went along with the joke and like thought it was funny. Didn't support her, I guess.
That Turkey Trot prank that family did was not a prank. That was abuse.
So people were making their own observations in the comment sections, but this wasn't just restricted to being like TikTok drama. It wasn't just chronically online drama. No, it became real. Like, there were people invading the Butler family and this fiance, their real personal lives. Like, they found the wedding website of the prankee and the pranker, and they were like, oh, they're still together. What a shame. So that was weird. But then also they were contacting the family and these, you know, the fiancés directly via their private email to like berate them and threaten them. So the reaction to what the Butler family considered to be a little prank quickly surpassed even their wildest of expectations. Like, how could they possibly have predicted this? Because all the details they gave us, like, we don't know anything about these people, right? They're not influencers, nothing like that. So all we knew was in the video and in the description. But then somehow word began to spread that the fiance had actually been diligently preparing to participate in this family's traditional Turkey Trot for months. Some people were saying weeks, some people said months, some people said a year. There were people saying that she was waking up at 5 a.m. every day to run like 6 miles. Like, she was training fervorously, these people were saying, for the Turkey Trot. And then other people were saying, oh, those shoes look new. She's bought brand new $200 shoes. I think they're called Hockers or something. I just said the same thing twice. I was trying to make it sound different, but I realized I was just gonna say hookers. She didn't buy $200 hookers for this family tradition. But basically everything boiled down to, people were saying that this fiance, she was obviously so excited to join this family that she was willing to do anything to fit in, because she was so nervous to fit in, as you normally are when you're meeting new people, you know, or a new family that you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with. And I guess everyone was like, it's just been thrown back in her face. Like, that's so unfair. And I don't know if you've heard about the flip the camera trend. It's been going around on TikTok lately, I guess. I don't know. None of this is my side of TikTok. I find out about it through other avenues, but I guess what happens is that it's mostly teenagers that participate, I think, and they'll ask like a stranger or just someone in general that's not their friend to record them doing some goofy, stupid dance. But that's not the point. The point is that they flip the camera so that it's actually recording the person who's holding the phone. And it's very, like, it sounds like it could be funny under the right context, but in the way that they're doing it, it's very, not everyone, most people, it's very like casually cruel. And it's actually really heartbreaking because most of the people holding the phone, they have this smile on their face, like they seem sweet, they seem like wholesome people. I mean, we don't know these people, right? So it's not to say they're angels or anything, but they just have no idea. It still doesn't feel fair that their appearance is the butt of the joke, and the fact that they were willing to help and support these teenagers, that's something that's laughed at and ridiculed. It's mean-spirited most of the time. Like, some people have tried to spin it in a positive way, but that is what makes it so upsetting for people, is the fact that it's basically bullying. These people are choosing to be cruel to another person. Well, I've explained that to you because I think that the Butler family Turkey Trot prank was kind of put on par with the flip the camera trend. And as far as like public reactions go, they were similar. And that's what I want to unpack today, because I feel like this Turkey Trot prank, it's open to a little bit more interpretation that people have been giving it. I think a bit of like a group think has formed around it, where I just want to come in and offer an alternative, maybe. A bit of nuance, perhaps. Not that I have anything important to say. I make these videos all the time and I'm like, girl, shut up. But it's fine. Basically, like I said, I first heard about this situation not on TikTok. I heard about it through an Amy Robinson video. They're great for lunch breaks. They're like the perfect amount of time. But I found myself fixating on this in particular just because of the commentary that was surrounding it, really. Like, I was just hearing so many things, and none of them, I thought, really aligned with what I'd seen when I watched the video. And I was like, I must be missing something. I must be missing some knowledge about the family, like there's got to be some backstory here. And so I looked it up, of course, because I have to know these things, and I realized that, yeah, I was missing some details, but the details I was missing weren't really pertinent to the outrage. It was kind of the opposite, actually. So that's what we're going to get into. I'm going to act as like a mouthpiece for the information that's been shared that hasn't really made it to the eyes of the general public. But first, I just want to give my usual disclaimer that as much as I do extensive research for these videos, less so for this one, because it's just like a bit of recent TikTok drama, but you know what I mean. I guess in this case, I endeavor to provide like a fully comprehensive overview of the facts, right? But I can't do that perfectly. I'm just a person. I'm working on a time crunch, trying to get a video out every week, especially now it's the holiday season coming up, so you might notice that my videos are a little bit quicker. That's because I'm trying to like have a little bit of a break, like my wedding's coming up. Ring got cleaned, by the way. It's so shiny, it's not gonna focus. Look at it! Anyway, what was I talking about? I'm bound to make mistakes, right? I'm 100% bound to make mistakes, so don't just take everything I say for gospel. And please don't be shy to contribute to this discussion in the comments. I think it's fantastic when you share your thoughts, more information, when you correct something that I've said. It truly goes a long way. And finally, just because this does get asked a lot, which I understand, my accent is a Kiwi accent. I'm from New Zealand. But anyway, now let's move on from that. Let's start to unpack this viral Turkey Trot prank video. And the first thing I need to do is to clarify what a Turkey Trot actually is, because I'm not American, right? So I could infer that maybe it had something to do with like trotting turkeys going on a little trot. Could have something to do with trotting to Turkey, like perhaps a very long walk, a bit of a swim. I don't know. I mean, I'm being silly. Like, I know it had something to do with Thanksgiving. I just didn't know what it was. And in case you also are in that same boat, this is it. Well, this is what it sounds like to me. This is what I read. For one, the thing I said about, turkeys trotting, yeah, that holds some weight. That is a thing that happens. But aside from that, because that's not the thing we're talking about, basically a Turkey Trot is like a community race. It's held on Thanksgiving morning, and I guess they're often arranged by charities, so someone will sign up to participate for a cause that they choose to support. But that's not everyone's reasoning. Like, some people are motivated to participate in a Turkey Trot because they get to burn off the excess calories in advance that they know they're going to be having later in the day from the big Thanksgiving meal. And then others just see it as a fun opportunity to spend time with their community, their family, their friends. Others like to brighten the days of their fellow Turkey Trotters by wearing, goofy turkey costumes. Great time, I'm sure. And of course, multiple of these things could be true at once. Like, someone could want to support a charity and also want to like get some exercise in on the morning of Thanksgiving, but you know what I mean. Moving on, as is implied in the name, the expectation of a Turkey Trot isn't really for people to just gun it to the finish line. More seasoned runners, yes, they might choose to participate in a more challenging Turkey Trot, but the average Turkey Trot is pretty approachable for most people, I'd say. I think I saw that they typically range from a distance of 3 miles, which is 4 km, or 8 miles, which is 12 km. And they're kind of designed to be suitable even for little leagues. So like kids can participate, entire families can come along together, and the average person of like a modest physical capability, they might be signing up for 2 hours of walking at most. Do you know what I mean? So you can walk, you can jog, you can run. As we know, the Butler family were joking that they were traditional Turkey Trot runners, so that would imply that they perhaps take the craft more seriously. But anyway, I came across this article. It was entitled, "Want to start running? Sign up for a Turkey Trot." No, I don't want to start running. But in this article, they specify that, yeah, you might want to purchase some like moisture wicking clothing, some attire that might be more comfortable to run in if you don't already own it. But they continue on to say, no one cares at a Turkey Trot if you're running, walking, dancing, skipping, whatever. This is supposed to be fun. So how you get to the finish line does not matter. I've realized we do have something that's kind of similar locally. It's not the exact same thing at all. But with that in mind, I can kind of pull on my own personal experience to relate to maybe what's going on when it comes to, you know, the views around a Turkey Trot and what might be happening in that video, if that makes sense. And using that knowledge, I can kind of pinpoint what people are so like up in arms about when it comes to this Turkey Trot prank. Because when I think about my local event, I think about people organizing a social group to participate with. And they'd probably do that at least a month in advance. Or they'd do it, you know, they'd finish one and they'd be like, are we doing the next one? And then I would also think that people who would agree to join might buy new clothes or new shoes because they'd need something that's more comfortable to exercise in than what they already own. And I can also imagine that, yeah, people might choose to prepare just in solidarity, you know, do some exercise leading up to the actual day because, you know, it happens. People might be embarrassed that, you know, oh, I'm gonna get puffed just from walking, everyone's gonna judge me. Is it the truth? No, but is it something that might cross your mind? Yeah, for sure. You might want to be able to like keep up with the people around you, even though that's not the point necessarily. It's supposed to be for fun. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if I think about it, I can sort of, I can definitely put myself into the shoes of the person in this video. I can think about how I might have been feeling. Like, with the level of empathy that I can give to this situation with my personal experience, I can bet that this person was probably feeling a level of anticipation, and that would have crashed and burned when she was told that nothing was actually happening. She didn't have to be, like, reared up and ready to go. But that's the thing, right? That's my interpretation, and I think because this scenario is so relatable, it's so down to earth, so many people are going to be able to interpret this in a way that's personal to them, if that makes sense. So like there's going to be a million different thought processes and emotions that could be tied to an event like this for somebody. Or even just, you know, the simple concept of spending a holiday with a family that's not your own family, a family that you feel like you don't fit into 100% or you feel like you need to impress. And when you factor that in, the amount of different people that could have so many emotionally charged things to say about this, it makes a little bit more sense how it got so blown out of proportion, right? Because on the surface, it's just a silly little prank about a fun Turkey Trot event. It's not a big deal. But if you sort of like brush back the leaves and you think about how you'd feel in that situation, yeah, there's a bit of anxiety there maybe, just from the way it was described and the way it looked. Because you do have to think the fiance didn't look she wasn't very enthused, you know? Her demeanor was not giving, I'm so happy and comfortable here. And so we might feel empathetic towards her, sympathetic, I guess. You know, we might think to ourselves, oh my god, I can just imagine how humiliated she's feeling, especially after all of the time and the effort that she's probably put into preparing to impress her fiance's family on their like traditional event. And I can see why that would snowball into being like, this is not right. This is not a right thing to be doing, for sure. But the thing is that all our thoughts are just thoughts. But people they didn't stop at that realization. And so this situation essentially became like a self-insert fan fiction. The best example I have of that is there was this video I came across that someone made a video about the things they'd say if they were the Turkey Trot girl. I don't know. It was just filled with like pure speculation. I was watching it and I was like, oh. Obviously it's meant to be over the top. That's the point. It's TikTok content, but it's still a good representation of kind of what was actually going on. So I will play at least some of that for you.
Really? You watched me train for that marathon for 6 months. 6 months I trained for that. I bought brand new shoes. The tutu, the hat. 1, 2, 3. We're just kidding. Most personality is like decaf coffee. The only thing funny about this entire situation is that I actually agreed to marry you. You're right. Your dinosaur obsession is weird. I don't like when you sit in the living room with just your dinosaur underwear on. Honestly though, I'm not even mad. It makes sense why you turned out the way that you did. If I wanted to be humiliated, I would just tell them about our sex life. When should I tell them that the wedding is off? When they show up and they're waiting on me to walk down the aisle? Our entire family laughs like people who have never read books that don't have pictures in them. And your sister? Yep. Give me a break. A break is a great idea. Now I'm single for Christmas, single for New Year's, and every holiday after that. I should have just went and had my root canal done today. Can anyone in your family even spell marathon?
But there was just so much conversation around this, and like I said, it was all speculation that people were kind of touting as being factual. Like, they said it with so much confidence that it was like, is this actually a thing? Like, there were people talking about how they bet that the family group chat was just buzzing with comments about, a little bit of exercise, a little bit of weight loss before this fiance's wedding day will be good for her. She needs it, you know.
This family group chat has been doing this for a month, and she's been out there training, running 6 miles or more, probably a few days a week. What do you want to bet that there were numerous comments in that family group chat about how it's good for her and she needs to lose a few pounds before the wedding? Because that's the feeling I'm getting, is that they had this kind of mean girl idea on how to get her to work out before the wedding day.
Which there is absolutely no notion that that's true, is there? But anyway, I'll continue. Someone else wrote that mother will trash talk her to the ends of the earth, especially to the new girlfriend if the son ever finds one. And then another comment was talking about the 1,000-yard stare when she came to realize what had just transpired and the fact that she had no idea who these people actually were. Someone wrote that she was set up for failure no matter how she reacted. You know, she would have been either the butt of the joke or the bad guy that can't take a joke. And then there was another comment that read, it was a coordinated deception for the purpose of the biggest, most widespread humiliation they could manage. It wasn't just a cute little 5-minute joke. There was money spent, weeks of plotting, laughing behind her back. They planned to post this whole time. No, that's not harmless. That's cruel. It's bullying. The prank at the end of Carrie, that's what this is. And then even like medical professionals were jumping on the bandwagon. There were someone making TikToks about the situation. I found one talking in an NY Post article. This was a psychologist. She said that the prank was cruel because time, energy, and other resources are finite, especially for people who are juggling work or study and other relationships. And so she went on to say it's essentially just a waste of time and very disrespectful. And she continued to comment that low-risk pranks can be funny when there's an established dynamic. But this situation, she said, crossed a line. And then there's these comments like this just goes on and on. This comment read, that's the face of someone who was anxious and stressed beyond belief and probably even tried to train to make sure that her partner's family wasn't disappointed. She deserves someone better. Someone else said, who would like that? She realized in that instant that her man would rather sacrifice her for a laugh than stand up for her. And someone else even said, the thing is that she's clearly thinking about all the time she put in on running and her gear, etc., probably to be a great representation of their family. I feel horrible for her and I hope she finds a better family to love her. There was another person that said to me the worst part was that she was so excited to be a part of the family, I guess, and instead they, including her fiance, othered her. I really felt for her and I hope she has people that appreciate her sweet heart. Someone even shared their own personal experience. They said, I was the prankee at Christmas with a fake lottery ticket. I was so happy and everyone was so excited, but then they said, read the back. I was put on display for my raw emotions. Horrible. And that is horrible. Like, she even said that she had cancer at the time, medical bills, so this would have been life-changing for her, right? And then she was sort of ridiculed for being happy about it. Like, that's a bad prank. But none of what I just read is what the Turkey Trot prank, none of that is what the Turkey Trot prank actually was, is it? It's what people had dramatized the Turkey Trot prank to be. Because now that we've allowed ourselves to like dip into the dramatics a little bit, let's take a step back and let's look at the facts, like the stuff that we actually know. And this is it. I've tried to break it down. I've probably missed some stuff, but at least 5 members of the Butler family came together to mastermind a silly prank. They had matching Butler family trotter t-shirts made. They handed the fiance an extra colourful tutu and a turkey hat, and they posed for a family photo together. Then they told the fiance that they were joking, that there was no race, and when she didn't seem to understand, they repeated to her that they were not going to be running that morning, and they were like laughing her, and they were patting her, holding her around the shoulders. They also called out welcome to the family, and then the video cut, and the fiance reacted finally by exclaiming, "Thank God, I'm sorry," sort of laughing and smiling a bit, and then burying her head in her hands.
God, I'm sorry.
Let's go eat some breakfast.
We know that the description said that pranks were a common thing in the Butler family and that the fiance was excited to not have to run. That's it. That's literally what we know, what was in the video. And the fact is that what we know is very unspecific, and it can't really be more specific because we don't know these people. We have no insight into who these people are. We don't know what the fiance finds funny. We don't know how well these people know each other. Genuinely, anything else that we might be inferring when it comes to this situation, it almost has to be a projection, right? Because we're taking how we might perceive, you know, the situation, the tone, the reactions, the prank in general, and we're using that to fill in the gaps. And that's normal. Like, as long as we're aware that we are making these quick assumptions to fill in the gaps, then that's absolutely fine. It's actually something that we do constantly. We're constantly making little assumptions about things because our brains, they just love to feel like they have all the information. They don't like to feel like things are incomplete. We look for patterns. We look for things we can clutch onto. It's just built into us. And so there's actually like a psychological term that describes exactly what this sort of means for us in our everyday life. The term is heuristics. And essentially the idea is that our brains are like processing machines, right? And they're constantly busy taking in, assessing the stimuli around us. But because there's so much to perceive all the time, we can't really perfectly categorize everything. If we tried to do that, that would lead to like a brain-based blue screen of death because it would just be too much. It would be overwhelming. And so to avoid that, our brains have created shortcuts. And these shortcuts, they're crucial to us navigating our day-to-day life efficiently because they allow us to do things like make split-second decisions, which we do all the time. And basically what they do is they allow us to free up cognitive bandwidth that would be better off relegated to tasks that actually require more attention. But there's one form of heuristics that I think is relevant to the situation at hand here, and that is, I struggle to say this, representativeness. The representativeness heuristic. And about this, I found an article written by Linda Poppel, and it explains that representative bias, also known as the representativeness heuristic, occurs when we make judgments or decisions based on how people or situations match a particular prototype or stereotype. For instance, we might consider a current event or situation in light of how similar it is to a prior event or situation, relying on mental shortcuts and judgments. And basically what it goes on to say is that as human beings, we sort of have our own preconceived notions of things that align and things that don't. Your brain will latch onto one conclusion or the other because stereotypically it is correct. It's going to save it a lot of processing power if it already knows. It knows already. It's already been there and done that, you know? Except the thing is that people and situations are all very different, and so your snap judgment could be wrong. I don't know. I think it's fair to say that a similar thing has kind of happened when it comes to this Butler family turkey trot prank. Because I'd guess that we probably do all have some kind of preconceived notion about at least some of the things that were happening in that video. Like, for one, the dynamics, right? If I asked you how you might feel if you were spending a holiday with a family that isn't yours, that you might not be super familiar with, because that wasn't implied in the video that they knew each other really well, then you'd probably have an answer, right? For me, I would be a little anxious. I'd be hoping to be accepted, you know? And then if I asked you what you might feel like if you were the butt of a joke that you didn't immediately understand, or maybe you didn't immediately find funny, you'd probably have an answer. Again, if I asked you to think about, you know, the type of family that might frequently play pranks on each other, what do you assume that their character might be like? You know, you'd probably have an answer for that. And then it goes down to the very basics, like, are you confident in your physical fitness? Do you like pranks personally? Like, would you pull a prank on someone else? What would your intentions be if you did pull a prank on someone else? Or like, would you be embarrassed to be pranked by someone? Like, there's so much that goes into this. Even if you were asked to participate in a turkey trot, would you expect to be told months in advance or on the day off? Are you very regimented, disciplined, eager to impress? Or are you pretty go with the flow, don't really care, you know? I'm sure these are all questions that everybody will have their own unique answer to, and they all pertain to the situation in some way or another. They will change how we perceive the situation because we have such bare bones information. We're going to fill in the gaps with our knowledge. So it's understandable that your own perceptions of the situation would cloud your judgment of the overall video. That's completely understandable. And then there's some people that think they can read body language really well.
Hi, I'm a body language expert, and she didn't like that. She did not like that at all.
I'd argue that everyone's body language is kind of different to some extent, but I don't know, like there are going to be plenty of reasons that you might feel like you can tell what's happening when really you don't have that information. That's pretty normal. And to be fair, from an outsider's lens, like I'm sure it would have been funny for the actual family, this prank, but like would I say it was particularly funny to watch? No. I don't know if I would jump to the conclusion that it was like a harmful prank or that the family had like cruel intentions, but I do understand the uncomfortable response from viewers, and I think it's tough to watch most pranks that are posted online because they are vulnerable. They're vulnerable things to do to someone. That's kind of the whole point, is you're putting someone in a situation that feels like it could be dangerous or like ostracizing, but it's actually not. It's benign, and so it's funny. But as a viewer, when you don't understand these people's dynamic, you know, the relationship dynamics, the background history, at that point it's awkward to watch. I just have always found that with pranks. I don't know, again, this is a personal thing, but like someone commented, they were like, normally I'm not a fan of pranks, but there was one I saw that, you know, a bunch of grandkids dressed in their grandma's clothes at a family gathering, and they were trying to see how long it would take her to realize, and when she did realize, she was like cracking up about it. I don't know, like that's great, that's funny. I could see myself doing that with someone, I don't know who, but I'd still feel uncomfortable watching it. I just feel like pranks are better off kept as personal memories. Like they're going to be special for the people involved from an outside perspective, not so special, not so funny. Especially showing it to a bunch of people that aren't really in on the joke, if that makes sense. Like I feel like that does make it a bit more humiliating, because I feel like what makes a good prank is like it should be harmless enough that everyone can laugh at it. Even the people that were the center of the joke should be able to laugh at it by the end of it. Nobody should walk away feeling like they were harmed or disrespected or mocked or treated like an outsider after a prank. But with that said, I feel like we've kind of covered the assumptions that were made about this prank and why people might have made them and why that's fine and normal. But now I want to flip to the next page and talk about why this might, because again, we don't know, why this might have been actually a pretty reasonable prank. Because now we have been given sort of tidbits of information that will allow us to make a clearer judgment of the situation. What your conclusion is again completely up to you, but we do have some more details now, and I'd argue that honestly the whole thing was not even half as bad as people were so concerned that it was. But I'll continue this timeline for you. So basically the engagement from enraged viewers kind of made this video snowball from where it should have been to where it ended up. It ended up becoming way bigger than itself, you know, and because social media is just, it's basically one big grapevine, like we're constantly hearing things from secondary sources, and I don't know, people ended up walking away from this subject laden with misinformation, rumors that were being spread far and wide as if they were facts. And basically these were the claims, and I cannot substantiate these. Like I have looked and looked and looked, there is no record that I can find of these things. Might be somewhere, if they did exist I really don't know, but the claims were that a member of the family had commented on the original video, and they said that the fiance, who some people were calling Libby and some people were calling Libby, we will clarify this later, but they said that the fiance had been training for weeks or months or years, and that she may or may not have bought new shoes for the event.
She is like really, really upset. Because she'd been training for it. People even pointed out she had new hokas, okay? She was ready to go, and she'd been pranked the whole time. Y'all, that's not a prank. That's a long con.
Those were the claims, basically, and what information you received kind of depended on who you were talking to, because especially now that the original video has been deleted and the comments were removed, like, the whole thing has just turned into a game of ping pong. Like, some commenters, I did see them asking, where is this information coming from? How do we know this? And people would just be like, no, trust me. Trust me, I saw it. Like, some people were saying things along the lines of, oh, I saw it on the original video, it's gone now, I have no proof, but like, I swear it was there. Other people were saying, I heard it was commented on the original video, like someone told me they saw it. And then there were some people saying, oh, I'm presuming that's what she would have done.
So she was presumably training for weeks for this 6.2 mile run. You know, that's a lot of sweat, a lot of physical strenuous effort that she had to go through. It seems like she got herself some new nice Hoka running shoes that you can see that are like $200.
And then some people were saying that they did see the original video, but none of those comments. Other people were speculating that these comments weren't even placed by family members. They did exist, but they were just lies. They were lying like internet dwellers that were like, I was there for this, and yes, it was evil. So all of this speculation is going on, right? And some people are convinced that it's not speculation. Other people are very confused about where the information is actually coming from. And then as this is happening, so many people are coming forward encouraging the fiance to call off her marriage over this Turkey Trot prank. They're like, this fiance he doesn't support you, he's willing to humiliate you for months, you know, like he'll watch you do these things and he won't say a word and then he'll let you suffer for it.
A prank is a character flaw. A whole family pranking, I hope this young woman takes her brand new Hokas and all the training she's done for the Turkey Trot that wasn't and runs like the wind away from that family.
So that was a big part of the narrative, like you should leave him. And then finally this AI video came out. It got so popular too, but it contains this like fantastical story. Well, actually it says, quote, Libby left the family that had been tormenting her. I'll play you some of the video.
Libby left the family that had mocked her. It wasn't just the absurd farce of that family event, but the fact that her fiancé hadn't chosen to stand by her. When the entire family burst into laughter, Libby didn't receive comfort immediately. Her fiancé clearly hadn't realized this. As the family counted down earnestly in the cold wind, what greeted her wasn't the starting signal, but an abrupt, uproarious laugh. We're just joking. There's no race. In that instant, the hopeful glow on Libby's face extinguished, replaced by shock and disorientation. She repeated, no race? Her voice thick with confusion, while her family mistook her embarrassment for successful comic effect, shouting, welcome to the family. This collective deception, packaged as an initiation ceremony, was laid bare in the video recording. She didn't argue on the spot, while her fiancé insisted it was just a traditional joke. Libby had already emptied her half of the closet. Let's break up. Her notice was blunt and direct. Her fiancé tried to justify it, saying her family meant no harm. Libby replied calmly, I felt humiliated. That's enough. This family used a collective deception to validate belonging, ultimately becoming the end of the relationship. Do you think she did the right thing? What's your take?
Yeah, so that's horrific. That's horrific. Anyway, so there were some people that looked for confirmation and they tracked down, I said this earlier, about the wedding website. And like this person, they commented, well, the wedding website is locked down, eek. And then someone responded, that's good news, right? Like, maybe she's really not going to go through with it. I hope that's true. What do you think? Like, I think you should back off and let these private people have the private wedding that they want. But speculation, right? Speculation was just not good enough. People were digging and digging for more information. They weren't finding everything they wanted and they just expected more. They expected more from this family that got caught in the weeds of virality. They were like, I don't understand. Why are they not capitalizing on this? Like, there was this creator, they posted a TikTok in which they expressed confusion over the fact that it had been 3 whole days since the original video was posted and nobody involved in the situation had come out to release a terrible apology video or even provide anyone with an update.
Turkey Trot prank happened days ago. 3 days ago, which is a million years in TikTok, we know. Where's the update? Where's the family's first terrible apology, followed by a second slightly less terrible apology, followed by the poor fiance just piecing out from that family and saying, I dodged a bullet. Why has everything gone dark? Where's the update?
Which it's beyond me why we feel like we're entitled to that from some random people. I don't know, like one commenter questioned, where are the other prank videos that they're so known for? Did they post any of those? And I can only assume that they're saying that because they said like it wouldn't be a Butler family Thanksgiving without a little prank. But that doesn't mean they post them. It just means they do them like in real life. So I genuinely am like confused. And then there was another person, they said, why won't she do a video speaking on it? And this was such a common sentiment. Why is she not coming out with a video? And it's like, probably because she doesn't want to. I don't know, like these people, they aren't well-known content creators. They're literally just a collective of people that decided to post a prank video to TikTok. It's perfectly likely that, yeah, they do plenty of pranks off camera. It's also realistic to assume that the prank in the video has been a topic of discussion amongst these people behind the scenes, off camera. And because they have no interest in being public figures, they'd just rather keep it to themselves. Like, not everybody wants to be a social media superstar, and also not everybody, like, I know influencers are very well known for sharing, like, every gory detail of their lives, but that's not what everyone wants to do, and we're also not entitled to know things that people don't want to share with us. I don't know, we kind of spoke about this in our video about my $10 life, the guy in $300,000 of debt in Korea. It's almost like some viewers have come to see TikTokers, their lives, as being like a reality TV show or like a sitcom, like Friends, where like nothing productive happens if the audience isn't privy to it, or like everything that happens has to propel the plot forward in some way or another. When in reality, life is nothing like that. These people are not in a TV show. There aren't producers like puppeteering their every move. They're literally just people. So oftentimes the truth is a lot more boring than we'd like to imagine, really. And the truth here was that the Butler family and the fiance Libby or Livy were not interested in stepping into the spotlight. And yet people pushed so hard for answers that they finally got them, just at the cost of the family's peace and privacy. So good job to them. But what happened was that a user on TikTok going by the name Libby, they started to post comments. They were under certain videos that were relating to the Turkey Trot prank video, and they seemed to want to clear the air about the whole thing, kind of. One comment from Libby explained, "It's not fun being found outside of TikTok and waking up to emails from strangers threatening you. That's why I've reached out and posted statements online, because the lies have gotten so out of hand." And they said, "I hope that never happens to you." But as for the statements that she was talking about, I guess I'll read you like an amalgamation kind of all of them, because they say very similar things, but some contain details that others don't, you know what I mean? There's just some slight variation, but this is what the messages combined kind of said. So basically the Butler family and Libby, this girl Libby, not Livy, they were familiar with each other. The Butler family kind of live all over the place, so it's rare for everyone to be together. But with that said, Libby had spent holidays with the family before. She just hadn't spent Thanksgiving there. This was their first Thanksgiving together. So 2 days before the holiday of Thanksgiving, the Butler family started spinning this story to Libby that they were an intense Turkey Trot family. And in response, Libby sort of said in jest that she'd Uber to the finish line before she ever ran. She's obviously not a runner. She was like, "You guys have fun with that. I will not be keeping up with you." And then, 2 days later, Thanksgiving rolled around, and so with no months of preparation under her belt, okay, no new shoes bought, Libby crawled out of bed on Thanksgiving morning to join the family for their tradition, and they posed for a family photo, and it all turned out to be a prank, as we know. Now, Libby said that she did find the prank funny, but she was like half asleep when they were posing for that photo. So, she pointed out she had bed hair, she had under eye bags. It took her a second to register what was going on. She was just tired. She'd just gotten out of bed. And then following that, Libby, as we know, she said, "Thank God." And she put her head in her hands to fake cry. She said that she basically was trying to express her excitement, like playing into the joke though, in a funny way. She was like, "Thank God I don't have to be out here in this chilly weather. I don't have to run. I'd rather have," she said she prefers like slow, comfortable mornings. And I'm assuming from what was said in the description that the family knew that. And that's why this was funny. Like, she's not a runner. They told her she'd have to run. She didn't have to run. I think that was probably the thought process. But Libby continued to say that they went back inside after this, and the family handed Libby, she said, a glass of champagne and then also a mimosa, so interchangeable, I guess. And then she took a nice seat in the living room while the family made her breakfast. And throughout the morning, Libby said they continued to laugh about the stupid prank. And obviously they thought it was funny enough to post. I'm assuming that Libby she probably had a say in that. Like, you've got to think it would probably be funny for her to see that her reaction was so slow. Like, I feel like that's something I'd laugh at in myself. I don't know. Again, that's just me personally inferring something. But what Libby said next was that even though she enjoyed the prank just fine, when the prank sort of picked up traction online, people started spreading lies about her and about the Butler family, and they'd been emailing them saying these really hurtful things, and she just wasn't having it anymore. Like, it was disrupting her life. Like she said, just because this may have crossed your own personal boundaries does not mean it's crossed mine. And so she concluded by saying basically that things were blown way out of proportion by social media users, and she just pleaded for people to leave her and her fiance's family alone. They did not ask for this. They didn't want this. And then, of course, this was kind of inevitable, but speculation kind of arose that this Libby was not actually the Libby, because she had no discernible profile picture, no public videos. Again, not a public figure, but some people were like, well, I don't believe that this is actually her. So Libby's cousin, funnily enough, she took to the platform as well to support Libby's claims. She shared a photo of the two of them together at her bachelorette party, and she was like, no, this is Libby. This is me and Libby. That user is Libby. And this cousin as well, they confirmed that no, Libby was not separated from her fiance. And Libby corroborated that. She said, if I would take advice from strangers and end my relationship with my fiance based on some unsolicited advice from strangers that don't know the story or my relationship, I think that'd be so stupid of me. You make a fair point, Libby. But as much as she was trying to clear the air, people did still have their doubts. Like, someone wrote, these posts sound like something one of the siblings wrote to justify their actions, and there is zero evidence Libby wrote them. Frankly, I think all of it is fake. Which again, holy assumptions, you know? And then again, it continues. Another person said, she should do a TikTok so that she can get everyone to stop speculating. Just speaking up in the comment section isn't working. But why is that her responsibility? Like, why have we placed this on her that she has to make a video? And I think honestly people are just blind to the facts of the situation, because the whole point is that like she could make a video and people would still be assuming things about the situation. Libby just wants to be left alone. She doesn't want to be a part of this. Like the last thing, sorry, I kicked you. The last thing she wants to do, that was such a big reach. I hope you're proud of me and my big long arms. What was I saying? Oh, the last thing that Libby wants to do, of course, is to bring more attention to her plight, or the plight of the Butler family in general. And as her cousin said, what? She'd do a video for more people to harass her in the comments? She doesn't owe you or anyone on the internet an explanation for events in her life. It's truly not that big of a deal. There's nothing more to it. I don't know how more plainly you could put that. I think this cousin is doing a great supporting act, but this, as much as this whole thing has been a headache, what I saw here really made me pause. Someone responded to a comment left by Libby's cousin, like her biological cousin, not a member of the Butler family, and they said, I don't know what your family thinks is funny, but this isn't. You actually pissed off thousands of people. Like, people are actually embarrassed and disgusted with what you did. I'd look for a therapist, because a lot of people think this is divorce grounds. It's not funny to prank people like this at all. As someone who was the ass of jokes without asking, it's a consent and boundary violation. I definitely consult a therapist why we think stuff like this is okay at all. And I feel bad that this person had such a poor experience with, you know, being the butt of other people's jokes. Obviously they weren't in on the joke, they didn't enjoy it, and that's not nice. But moving aside from that, I know that we used to take typing lessons at school. I know we've evolved past the need for that, but we've evolved right into the need for media literacy lessons. Because how on earth did this person deduce that Libby's cousin was a member of the Butler family? I don't know. It's just all so messy. I think that analyzing media is a really important skill to have, and also, you know, how we can verify trustworthy sources. That's something that's really important to know. What's the difference between secondary sources and primary sources? How can we separate reality from fiction and media, like social media? These are all very important things, because we are, to be fair, completely surrounded. We're engulfed in media. We're way over our heads in it. It's constantly encroaching on our everyday lives, and we clearly are not, as a collective, right, as a society, providing people with the right tools to deal with that eruption of media being everywhere in a healthy way, because this is not healthy. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, but it is like a genuine concern. Like, I don't mean to pick at anyone or make fun of anyone, not at all, but I'm just genuinely worried. But I don't know. I think moving back to the actual topic at hand, I think that probably like confirmation bias would be the easiest way to explain the response to the aftermath of the Turkey Trot prank. And I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with confirmation bias, but it's like the human brain's tendency to cling to information that aligns with its existing beliefs. So if I really believe that hot dogs are sandwiches, no, that's a bad one, because hot dogs are sandwiches. If I really believe that cats are dogs, but just they're a different breed, a special breed of dogs, and then a cat wags its tail and someone's like, it's angry, I'll be like, no, it's happy, because dogs do that too, and that's why that cat's a dog. Are we following? Now that we're all so well informed on confirmation bias, I think that confirmation bias is something that social media algorithms really play into, because it helps so much with engagement. Basically, they figure out what we like or dislike, and then they feed us more of that in a way that aligns with our beliefs, right? So if they know something will rage bait us, they'll feed it to us and we'll get sucked into that. If they know something will align with us, they'll feed us that and we'll get sucked into that. They do it perfectly. It's amazing what it can do for them. But the issue is that because of that, we're not really challenged by the things that we're seeing, because we see so much content online, and what's fed to us is what we prefer to have fed to us. So we're just constantly reaffirmed. And of course, that leads to us developing a very narrow view of the world, or at least certain situations. Like the Turkey Trot prank, you know, you're more likely to engage with and consume other TikToks that are confirming your beliefs about what happened with this Turkey Trot prank. And so we find ourselves stuck in this echo chamber online where our beliefs are being constantly reinforced, and that can lead to a really divisive standoff when we're met with someone that doesn't share the same opinions as we do. Like when we are confronted with the idea that perhaps our beliefs aren't correct or aren't the only way, it becomes a standoff. How dare you challenge my version of reality? You know, it feels really threatening. And it's because it's just not happening that much, I think. Like we're so allowed to bathe in our perspective. I don't know, it's definitely changing the way that we interact with each other and the way that we perceive the things around us, and I think that's really interesting. Like this is something that we didn't have prior to this extent anyway. But in this case, basically, instead of accepting that their version of reality might not be true if they believe that the fiance is in peril in this Turkey Trot prank video, or you know, the family are evil and they don't care about the fiance, etc, etc. Instead of believing that the opposite could be true, they're biting back. They're refusing to take on opposing information. They're finding fault in the information that has been provided to them. Like that's not the real Libby. And they're doing that, I mean, to some extent, I'm assuming subconsciously, because they don't want to be wrong. And who does? Like, I don't blame them. We're all just humans. Like, I don't want to sit on my high horse in these videos. I know that some people think it can come off that way, but truly, I'm just interested in researching this, so I'll react a certain way and be like, why did I do that? It's not just other people that I analyze. Otherwise, I learn nothing. But one of the things that, this is just me personally now, one of the things that I find very frustrating within this whole, the response to the Turkey Trot situation, is that the scenario that so many people clung to is one in which Libby has no autonomy, no assertiveness. It's just this weak pawn for the family to play with. Like, the envisioned dynamic was one in which Libby was this young girl who would do anything to fit into her fiance's family. And like, sure, I can't say that's not true because I don't know her. I don't know the family. But an alternative reality does exist where this woman, Libby, is entirely capable, actually, of advocating for herself. One in which she's entirely capable of saying, listen, I'm not a runner. I'm not going to do that with you, but I'll be standing at the finish line cheering you on. And that's a scenario that's just as believable with the information that we had at the very beginning. It's just not what most people were enticed by or what most people projected onto this woman. And even still, commenters are continuing to downplay Libby's ability to fend for herself. Like, one person wrote that they thought that Libby had only stepped forward to speak out, quote, after the family said, hey, we don't look good in that video. You need to tell the world that you weren't bothered. And then another person said, to be honest, in this day and age of people using social media, most people don't write out posts, they make a video. And furthermore, that comment sounds like it came from the sister or the fiance. My reasoning for that is listen to all the words she chose to use. If it was you, were be those words you used. But if someone tried to describe how you reacted and you wanted to underplay it, isn't that how you would explain it? Which honestly, I'm sure that makes sense to them. It might make sense to you. Made no sense to me. But then other people were saying as well, like, I don't think those comments were from Libby because if I was the one in the prank and I wanted to make a comment saying that I was alright, I'd just say that. I'd just say, hey, look, I'm alright. Well, yeah, that's you. Like we're projecting how we'd feel or how we'd act onto this woman. We don't know this woman. Like, I don't know, I guess it's this separation thing. Like, we cannot, because social media is reality, but not entirely. I guess it's really hard for our brains to like separate those two things, differentiate, analyze them in the way that they're supposed to be analyzed. Because listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that what Libby said in those comments is 100% the truth. I can't. I genuinely can't even argue the point that it was Libby that said those things. I don't know. But what I can say, what I am going to say is, why does it matter to us so much? Like, these people, I know I've already said it, but they're not content creators. This isn't their job. They don't want it to be. We will likely never hear from them again, and honestly, power to them, because all the internet wants is to use them as their punching bag until they get bored of them and move on to the next thing. Like, it wouldn't benefit them to come back to the platform. But I don't know, like, I'd understand if there was a real significant concern that, you know, Libby was showing signs that she was in distress, she looked like she truly was a victim of abuse. Then I get that. I'd get that feeling powerless and feeling like I've got to do something about this and, you know, trying to reach out and whatever because you're genuinely worried about the safety of this person. But truly, the only real informed proof we have of Libby ever being in distress during and after this prank is in the public response to it, is in the way that the people are going out of their way to spread lies about her and her fiance's family and like put a wedge in between her and her fiance, and even going out of their way to reach out privately with these disgusting messages. That's what's bothering her, and I don't think that's right. Like, some people I saw, they were sharing sentiments, like one person said, if people didn't want others making fan fiction about their lives, they shouldn't be posting it on social media. People are going to come up with whatever scenarios they want based off their own personal experiences and how they feel observing the situation at hand. And like, that's true. We've spoken about that this whole video. People will do that. But overall, I do think these kind of justifications are sort of futile because it seems like they're saying that it's imperative that these thoughts must be voiced. Like, we are not responsible for analysing our own thoughts and thinking, perhaps this is not useful. Perhaps this doesn't need to be broadcast. And especially because, like, the justifications aren't always 100%. Like, for example, they post their lives on social media, we're going to comment on it. Well, the Butler family, and especially Libby, they didn't post their lives on social media. They posted a tiny, tiny, tiny snippet from it. The Butler family, they posted one event from their life. And Libby didn't even post anything. But regardless of who posted what, none of them consented to, especially having people reach out to them privately. And people are saying, they should have expected this. How? How could someone who is not a content creator, maybe does not think about the platforms very much, how the algorithms work and what people speak like on them, how could they possibly have expected a silly little prank video to go viral and impede on their real lives and their own sense of like safety and peace and mental stability in the way that it did? And I don't know. I feel like on social media, we almost detach ourselves so much that we can just say and do anything and not fully consider it. Like, there were people who were claiming to empathize with Libby, that they were sympathetic to her situation, and yet they've done anything but support her. They've actively made her life harder. They've made things worse. They told her how she felt. They told her what she should do about it, and then they accosted her for more details about her non-existent melancholy feelings and the non-existent action that she was going to have to take over this terrible prank that obviously ruined her life. When actually the situation was nothing like that, and in reality they did more damage to her and the people that she loves than the prank did. And that's a shame, because everyone that stepped forward, I would imagine, had good intentions to support this woman that they thought was going through peril. But that's an example of why it's so important to verify the things that you're hearing from other people before you let yourself get invested emotionally in the information that might be misinformation. And it's getting even harder nowadays with AI videos, and I don't know, maybe I don't understand, and that's what it is. I want to understand so badly. Like, why do we do this? Because to do all of that and then turn around and accuse them of making things worse, saying like, that's on you because you didn't post a follow-up video. I just don't get it. I really don't. Like, I think that social media users took this way further than it needed to go. I don't know what you think, and I'd love to hear it, but to do that and then be asked to be rewarded for like the real life consequences that you made these people suffer, like, that doesn't align for me. I'm gonna keep making your life harder until you reward me with a video. I don't know, I don't get it. But I do think that it's really important to remember that when we're scrolling online and we can feel very detached from everything, all the situations we're seeing, all the people that we're coming across, our words and our actions online do have a real impact on people. Something that's just a split second for you is their entire life. It might stick with them for that long. Meanwhile, you've forgotten that you even left a comment on that video. And so when we take our thoughts a step further and we verbalize them, that can be harmful. Like, there should be a level of thought put into that, just as if you were standing in front of people announcing it to them, because it's not just numbers on a screen or words in a book. It's targeted. You're interacting with someone. It's a social interaction. And the way things are online right now, it's to a point where we turn real people into fictional characters that exist in a vacuum, and that's just not the case. I saw a video from Yuval. I don't actually know how to pronounce their name, I'm sorry, but they made a video on the Turkey Trot prank, and they really highlighted the nuance that context provides to pranks. And I want to insert a segment from that for you because I found it, I enjoyed it.
Have a conversation in general about the true nature of prank culture and whether or not pranks like these are truly more harmful than they actually are funny. But can we not act like any family who does something like this is the spawn of Satan? My dad once called a roundabout a round-around. And And when that happened, that was the only joke my entire family made for the next 2 weeks. Same thing happened when he called a hillbilly a Billy Hilly, and when he said everybody at work was bombing him with emails. Cancel us! He learned English as a second language. How dare we make fun of our immigrant father for making these silly mistakes when he's just trying his best. One time, my sister-in-law, speaking of in-laws, had left her keys at the house, and she texted me asking if I had seen them, which I had, but instead of telling her where they were, I responded to her by sending her a riddle, which was the start of a scavenger hunt to find her keys. I left post-it notes all over the house, so she had to spend time and energy finding her keys when I could have just given them to her. She was very frustrated. I caused her emotional distress and turmoil. What if it was an emergency? What if she needed her keys because she needed to get back to her apartment because it was on fire and she needed to get her dog out of the apartment? No, she didn't have a dog, but what if she just adopted? What if she adopted a dog that day and the apartment was on fire and she needed to get her keys so she could rescue her dog? When I was 17, I told my then 7-year-old sister, that's right, 7 years old, so what I'm about to tell you is child abuse. Keep that in mind. I told her that at the start of 2nd grade, you had to wrestle a bear. I told her in the 2nd grade, they make everybody wrestle a bear. Now, of course, in the beginning, she didn't believe me, but I was so consistent with this. I told her this every single day for an entire summer leading up to 2nd grade, to the point that by the end of it, she wasn't sure if I was lying. I remember she would ask her mom, like, do I really have to wrestle a bear? And I would tell her, don't listen to mom. She's lying because she doesn't want to scare you. You need to be prepared, so you better look up bear wrestling tactics. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she genuinely looked up bear wrestling YouTube videos because I told her she would be eaten otherwise. And then after the first day of 2nd grade, she angrily stormed into my room and shouted, guess what? We didn't wrestle a bear. You know what's crazy? I didn't even stop. I told her, oh, no, it's not the first day, but some point during 2nd grade, they make you wrestle a bear. Then when the year ended, it was like, oh, wait, no, it was 3rd grade that they make you wrestle a bear. So you got to make sure you're prepared for next year. I haven't stopped. I continually told her that the following year was when she was going to have to wrestle a bear. And she's now a junior in college, and I still haven't stopped. Which means I can't just blame it on my childhood proclivities. This is just me. I never learned my lesson. I made her continually partake in a humiliation ritual. Cancel me, TikTok. Cancel me for my crimes against humanity. It's the only way I can learn.
But I love that he said what he said, like he included his own personal anecdotes, because that made me reflect on my own experiences within my own relationships, and it made me think about the amount of nuance that exists within every single one of the interactions that I have with them. And that really helped me to put things into a perspective that I felt like I could conclude on, because I came to think about this time that I was spending the night out with some people, I don't need to specify, and we went to a mutual friend's workplace and we had a dessert there, and then the conversation arose that we were going to dine in ditch, and I was like, we are absolutely not going to do that. But they insisted, and I literally got dragged out of this place by my arm, protesting about how what they were doing was not a good thing. I would not be complicit in it. I was like, this is so wrong. And I was just absolutely baffled about why these people that I thought were good people could not recognize that they were doing an awful thing. And they thought it was funny. They were cracking up. They were bent over laughing. I was like, what is wrong with you? I was in like inner turmoil for all of 30 seconds before they revealed to me that actually everything had been paid for. Someone had covered the entire meat. Tried to say meal and feed at the same time, sorry. And they covered the entire feed for all of us. And they just thought it would be funny not to tell me and to, act like they were dining and ditching. And listen, I was confused. I probably reacted very similarly to the Turkey Trot girl, where I didn't laugh right away because I didn't know it was funny. I was so lost. I was like, it's been paid for? Are you serious?
Welcome to the family, Libby.
Are you serious?
And I'm sure if that was a video that was recorded and posted online, it probably would have been controversial enough to cause some ruckus. But in reality, we moved on from that situation very quickly. It was nothing but a blip in our lives. Now it's a funny memory because everything was fine. Like, I came around once I realized what was going on, and we laughed about it and we went along our merry way. I lived in peace knowing that my meal was paid for, our friend would not get in trouble, and nobody was doing anything immoral or illegal. It was actually a great feeling. In the end, like, do I think it's particularly funny? No, I don't. I'm a rule follower. I'm like, don't even make me think I'm breaking the rules. But can I see the humor in it? Yes. Did it amicably, sorry, I like sneezed that word out. That was a really hard word for me to say. I'm not gonna try again. Did it like ruin my relationship with any of these people? No. It had literally no effect on my relationship with them, except now we have this funny story about how Talia is such a stickler for the rules. And that really led me to understand how insignificant this probably was for everyone involved in that prank, and how overblown it really probably did get online. And that leads me to my closing thoughts about this prank. Was it hilariously funny? Not necessarily. Personal preference, I'm sure. Was it a harmful prank? I really don't think so. Libby's comments, if you want to believe that they are Libby's comments, they point to her being familiar with the Butler family, comfortable enough to crack jokes around them, you know what I mean? So she didn't display a lack of ability to advocate for herself or a lack of comfortability around these people. As in, well, we have no proof of that being the case, if you understand what I mean. And like, yes, she was the butt of the joke. The family went the extra mile for her costume. They gave her the tutu, the turkey hat. She had no idea what was going on. That does make her the butt of the joke. She looked silly, right? But they looked silly as well. They invested time and money and effort into this goofy prank. As far as the time frame goes, it wasn't months in advance that this was happening. The seed was planted 2 days prior. The prank was over within 30 seconds, maybe 5 minutes max, I guess, off camera. And importantly, they did have that relationship sort of history to the extent that I'm sure they knew that this was an appropriate thing to do with her. This wasn't their first time meeting or anything like that. Now, to say that you wouldn't like a prank like that, you know, you wouldn't find it funny, you'd be embarrassed to be at the heart of it, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's completely understandable. And I just hope that the people that are close to you know you well enough to know that they should never do anything to put you in that space intentionally because you wouldn't like it. But then to project how we might feel onto a person that we don't know when we have such little context, that's more of an issue, right? So in the end, my thoughts on the prank, let me try to like condense these. I think that it spiraled into something way bigger than itself. That's what I think. Like that psychologist that we mentioned that talked to the NY Post, she did say that, you know, low risk pranks can be funny when there's an established dynamic. But the issue I have is that she also said things like this. She said, you know, small pranks can be funny when done in good faith, but something like this is probably unnecessary and unkind. Why? Why probably? We had no proof of that. It was only what other people were saying. So I don't know. I truly think that the conversation happening around this prank would have been completely fine without the added layer of the fan fiction. Because it's one thing to verbalize, like, I'd hate if that happened to me. Or, you know, if someone said, I'm not saying that this is what's happening here, but, you know, make sure that you know someone really well before you prank them like this. That's fine. But it's another thing entirely to create a storyline about a stranger's life and then harass them over the storyline that's been created online. Like, to villainize an entire family based off of rumors and like individual perceptions that may or may not have existed in their real life. I don't know, like, this isn't a fairy tale, you know, like, we don't need a villain to drive the plot. This is real life. Real life is enough of a villain. We don't need another one. I don't know, I really do think that right now we lack a little bit of an understanding of how to manage media in the way it is in our lives. Like, I think that we'd benefit from being a little bit more aware of our cognitive biases and our fallacies and how they might play out online, especially in social interaction over the internet. Like, the impact that we can have on other people when we're online is often it's not something that we fully perceive or fully understand. I don't know how to vocalize it. And like, I'm not impervious to this, you know what I mean? Like, truly, we are all just people trying our best. But the one concern that I could even slightly agree with around the Turkey Trot prank is the fact that publicizing stuff like that could encourage some impressionable people to pull the same thing sort of willy-nilly at the expense of others because they might not understand the nuance behind them. Like, social media doesn't necessarily, you don't see all sides of a perspective, you just see one flat image. So I do get that. I saw a couple people talking about that and I understand that. But then, like, how much do we restrict ourselves out of the fear that somebody will perceive what we're doing in an erroneous way? Like, how much is it feasible for us to do that? I don't know. I guess that's a subject for another video because we have come to the end of this. I think that's all I've got to say about the Turkey Trot prank family. Do let me know what you thought about this. It's just easier for me to cover topics that are happening now because when I do, say, deep dive videos, the amount of research that goes into those is crazy. Like, it's a big undertaking for a week because I'm always trying to push a video out within a week. And so I'm working like 12-hour days, sometimes just trying to get them done. Whereas this is a little bit easier, but then I don't love, oh sorry, my camera died, no. What was I saying? I don't love the fact that I don't feel like my opinion holds any weight. Like I don't feel like I have anything worthwhile to say necessarily because I'm not a professional. I'm just a person. I'm worried that I come off as all like high and mighty because, oh, I've done research into this, you know what I mean? I don't know, do tell me. I've said this in my last video, but I have been avoiding the comment section just for the sake of my own mental health. I just feel like it's getting to the point where there are so many opinions in the comment section that I don't necessarily need to be privy to them all. Like it's not good for my brain, but I still do peruse the comments and I love to see familiar names. I always want to say faces and I'm not seeing anyone's faces. I just love to see familiar names down there and I'm just so grateful. I really am for the discussion that happens down there. But yeah, I'm trying to get out videos obviously a little bit faster. I'm trying to make more of them per week because I'm trying to get some prepared so that I can take some time off for the holidays, especially for the wedding. Of course, I'm not going to be doing any work on the wedding week. I'm going to be stressing, but of course I will update you when that's all done. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to what I've had to say about this. And I would be very interested to hear what you think as well, because there are so many ways that you can interpret this. And this was a very biased video on my end. Like I had my perspective going into this. So I think it would be helpful to experience some other people's thoughts as well. But with that said, I guess I will go. Yeah, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for being here, spending some time here today. I hope that you're doing well. Hope that life is treating you kindly. If not, hang in there. It will change. But yeah, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, it's almost Christmas. Am I uploading on Christmas? I'm sure I'll have another chance to say Merry Christmas. Okay. Or like Happy Holidays. Happy Holidays I can say now. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. Okay, I'm gonna go. All right, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Bye. Bye.